Thanks for stopping by. Scott Bradshaw here with YourBoatMoney.com, and today we're going to talk about down payments in the marine lending world. It is my second most frequently asked question, and hopefully we can clear up some of the confusion. So come on in and let's talk about it. All right, thanks for coming back. My name is Scott Bradshaw. This is YourBoatMoney.com, and I want to help you understand the marine lending process. Our number one most frequently asked question is, what is your interest rate? There's an entire video about that, and there's a section on the website talking about interest rates, as well as a blog post. There's a lot of information in those areas about that. But what isn't generally understood very well, and what I haven't explained in this format yet, is down payments and how they work. Now, everyone asks me the second question, what is my down payment going to be? And the short answer to that is, it depends. And I know everyone hates that answer, but it is what it is. It depends. Writing for as many different banks as we do, each one of the banks has their own guidelines as to what's acceptable. Some banks will be as little as no money down. That is very, very rare and a very rare occasion, so I don't even generally address that one. A couple of them are 10% down, some are 15% down, and some are 20% down. Okay, well, that seems fairly cut and dry, and we can end this video, right? Unfortunately, no. So that is a starting point for down payments. And what I mean by that is that's what the minimum that the bank is willing to accept, as long as all other things line up with that. What other things? Specifically, the wholesale value. Now, wholesale values in the marine world are similar to wholesale values in the car world, in that there's some published things out there. J.D. Powers has NADA. You can actually go onto jdpowers.com and build a lot of boats and see what the average retail and the high retail and the low retail are. But without a subscription, you won't be able to see the wholesale value. That's a tool that we have. There's another tool called Buck, which some boat manufacturers report to, BUC. Some do and some don't. Some report to Buck and not NADA, and some report to NADA and not Buck. And then there's another tool, Sold Boats information, that we have access to through a subscription. And then there are current listings. I say all that to say what the bank's real answer for what is a down payment, that real answer is going to be, it depends on what the wholesale value is and what the loan to value ratio is when they look up that wholesale value. For an example, a $70,000 boat at retail, if it's relatively new, there's probably a lot of sales data recorded in Buck or in NADA, and those values are still going to be relatively high. So let's say a boat, it's 2024 when we make this video, and let's say it's a 2022 model, relatively common boat, let's say Cobia, Sea Hunt, Boston Whaler, something like that, that reports into J.D. Powers NADA. It's very likely that you can get away with a 10% down payment if you have relatively good credit. But let's take that same 2024, and we're looking at a $70,000 boat, and it's still a Sea Hunt or a Cobia, but now it's a 2011 model boat. Well, now we're getting very far apart from when it was made and when it is new, and it is likely to have been sold largely at peer-to-peer, driveway to driveway, without a broker or a dealer involved. And quite frankly, we don't report those sales, right? I buy a boat from my neighbor, I'm not reporting that to anyone. So the volume of data that the banks have to determine the value gets smaller and smaller. That metric gets smaller. And the wholesale value may not support a 10% down payment. It may not support a 15 or a 20% down payment. Now let's take that $70,000 example, and we go from 2022 or 2023 model to 2011. The banks may only be able to find value to support a loan amount of $35,000 or $40,000. That doesn't reflect what the boat is worth in the retail market. It doesn't mean that the boat isn't worth what the person is asking for it at retail. It just means that the bank doesn't have the data to support the wholesale. Why the wholesale matters to them is if for some reason the loan were to go into default and the bank had to get their money out of it and be made whole, they're not going to take it to the retail market and let it sit on a lot for sale. They're going to take it to auction and get wholesale. So they base what they are willing to put into that boat on that information. How do we combat that? I don't know. That's a good question I've been working on for a very long time. More sales data is really the only way to get that. But again, private transactions aren't going to report to those. So let's talk about a couple of those tools. If this would be a great point, if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole, you have a lot of information. And I am guilty of going down the rabbit hole because I really like what I do and I like explaining these things to people. So if you've gotten what you need and don't need any more, okay, click off of the video and look at some of the others and read some of the articles I have. But let's talk about those tools for a little bit. J.D. Power's NADA is expensive to participate in from a boat manufacturer or dealer side. A lot of our favorite brands out there, Onslow Bay, Contender, just a lot of boats do not want to play the game of paying NADA the amount of money that they want to list those boats. And that's fine. I don't blame them, not one bit. So there are other tools. Generally speaking, when a boat is under $100,000, the bank really wants us to use NADA, J.D. Powers, if it is published there. If it is not published there, then we can try to make some concessions with other things. And a lot of times, if the boat is over $100,000, if the loan amount is over $100,000, then they'll let us switch primarily to BUC or BUC or sold boats data and current listings. So there's another little moving piece there. If you're looking at a boat under $100,000 and it's an older boat and the bank is going to make us use NADA, you can see where the data doesn't support necessarily the wholesale value to get you a 10% down payment. As we go up in value, some of the other tools are used. If there's a survey being done on the boat, the surveyor will use the same tools that we use and the banks use. They'll use sold information, just like an appraiser would use on a house. They'll use BUC, they'll use NADA if it's there, and they'll use current listings. The bank is not going to use the surveyor's value of what they see the retail being, except to lower a loan amount. If you're buying a boat for $500,000 and the surveyor says it's only worth $400,000, then the bank is going to start at $400,000. They're not going to give that $500,000 credit. I know you can argue with the banks about that. I don't make those rules. It just is what it is. So if you're buying a boat for $500 and the survey comes in at $400, you're probably about to have some problems. The survey report is not the wholesale value. It is the retail, the market value of what the boat is worth there. So banks don't pay a lot of attention to what the survey value is. On occasion, when we get into much larger boats, the banks will allow for a twin survey, and then they'll take the value of the twin survey and make some modifications to it to come up with their LTV. But this really getting down into the rabbit hole here. I'll end this up just by saying it's a long answer to a short question. What's my down payment going to be? It depends. And I hope you can see that there are a lot of different moving parts and a lot of data and a lot of metrics that go into making that decision of what the wholesale value is going to be and what the loan amount is going to be. It is just not simply a one-stop little shot there. So if you like information like this, if you like to learn more about how boat loans work, if you're trying to make a decision on buying a new boat and there's anything that I can do to help, come on by yourboatmoney.com. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of tabs. I'd rather overload you with information than I had to keep you in the dark. I'd like to give you a kind of a peek behind the curtain, if you will, about how all this works. So once again, yourboatmoney.com here on YouTube and on the web. Shoot us a message, give me a call, see what I can do to help you out and help you understand your next boat purchase. Thanks, and hopefully we'll see you on the water.